Hello and welcome to the program. This week, I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin this week in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the second biggest city of Bukavu has been captured by M23 rebels. Now, this is coming few weeks after the rebels overtook the city of Goma. Seizing the the city, regional governor confirmed the seizure, the second largest city in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, while the Congolese government has acknowledged its fall and is urging residents in the city to stay at home to avoid being targeted by the occupying forces. In the meantime, one of the M23 leaders who has been sanctioned by the UN Security Council, Bernard Maheshe, addressed residents after the takeover, saying they are going to clean up the disorder left over from the old regime. The United Nations and European countries are warning that this latest offensive, which has seen hundreds of thousands of people forced from their homes, could spark a wider regional war. In the meantime, at the just concluded AU summit in Ethiopia, the African Union Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Bankole Adeoye, is warning of the balkanization in the DRC. He says the only way to solve the problem in Eastern DRC is for all parties to sit round the table, as the African Union is ready to play a mediation role under the umbrella of the Luanda process.
We are all very, very concerned about an open regional war in over Eastern DRC. And this, we reiterated the need for caution and the need for M23 and its supporters to disarm and withdraw from the Goma airport and other occupied territories. The most important factor is that the African Union, as I said, convened in June 2023 what is called the Quadripartite Summit. And that summit brought together all regional actors under the umbrella of one important peace instrument that no one is talking of today, the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework Agreement that was signed in Addis Ababa in 2013. That peace process led to making sure that M23 and all the negative forces in DRC were virtually inactive for almost a decade, until about 2 years ago when we had the resurgence of M23. So we are looking at the implementation of that particular peace agreement because it's comprehensive, it is very detailed, and takes care of all the actors at national, regional, and institutional levels. This new escalation should not become an open conflict that will disrupt and impact on humanitarian activities and the already very weakened social fabric in the region. The only way to solve the problem in Eastern DRC is for all parties to sit around the table. And the African Union is ready to play that mediation role under the umbrella of the Luanda process.
The crisis in Sudan also took center stage at the African Union, with the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres acknowledging the humanitarian crisis in the country during his speech at the summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Mr. Guterres highlighted the ongoing conflict that has forced more than 10.7 million people to flee their homes, including 1.8 million who have left the country, making it the country with the highest displacement rates globally.
Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the backrolling of the bankrolling of bloodshed.
In the meantime, African Union Commission Chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat is calling for combined efforts from regional leaders to address what he calls the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Sudan. He made this call during the Peace and Security Council meeting in Addis Ababa. Mr. Faki Mahamat says this is imperative in expressing solidarity with Sudan, but also in stopping foreign interference in Sudan's internal affairs. Equatorial Guinea's President Teodoro Nguema Mbasogo, on his part, asserts that the Peace and Security Council must guarantee the work of the Special Dispatch for the Prevention of Genocide in Sudan. Sudan is a country that has been experiencing severe turmoil since fighting broke out between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces in April 2023. This has resulted in the deaths of approximately 15,000 people, according to the United Nations. We're seeing the United Arab Emirates pledging an additional $200 million in humanitarian aid for Sudan. And this was during a conference with the African Union, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, and Ethiopia in Addis Ababa. So far, the UAE has provided over $400 million to support the Sudanese people and neighboring countries who welcome Sudanese refugees. UAE Minister of State Sheikh Nahyan Al Nahyan says this latest fund is to reaffirm the UAE's commitment to Sudan. In the meantime, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also stressed the regional and global importance of the Sudanese crisis, saying this could affect stability across the Horn of Africa and beyond.
The UAE has provided over $400 million to support the Sudanese people in Sudan and neighboring countries who have so generously welcomed Sudanese refugees. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to the people of Sudan by announcing an additional $200 million in humanitarian funding. This support reflects our unwavering solidarity since the last decade alone. We have stood by our brothers and sisters in Sudan with $3.5 billion over the past years.
This crisis is not just Sudanese. It is a regional and a global concern, impacting lives, livelihoods, and stability across the Horn of Africa and beyond. Global solidarity is essential to ensure the Sudanese people receive food, clean water, basic health care, including vaccines and medicines, and protection against violence. As the holy month of Ramadan approaches, urgent action is required, not just in words, but through tangible commitments to elevate suffering.
Represent your nation positively, help dispel bad narratives, and continue to drive economic growth for your country. This advice is coming from the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mr. Mohammed Idris, to Nigerians in the diaspora as he met with the community of Nigerians living in Ethiopia on the sidelines of the 38th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, reports.
The headquarters of the African Union, venue of the 38th African Union Summit, is busy as different meetings are taking place on different issues. One of such meetings is on the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment is participating in the meeting, and she outlines the position of Nigeria on the agreement.
Well, as Nigeria, you know, we're competitive in services. We've been paying close attention to the digital trade agenda. South Africa, Kenya, other countries have also offered to champion digital trade. So we're here to continue to push our agenda and to make sure that we progress the discussion for Nigerian youth, particularly our fintechs.
The meeting proceeds into a closed-door session, and a statement released afterwards indicates that the former president of the Republic of Niger, Mahamadou Issoufou, who is the African Union AFCFTA's champion, commends President Bola Tinubu for his efforts on the digital trade protocol. In his official report, which was presented during the meeting, the former president praised President Tinubu and Nigeria for taking steps towards implementation of the agreement, including organizing a roundtable highlighting the protocol. Another event on the sideline of the summit is the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding on the provision of strategic sea lift to the African Union by Nigeria. Minister of Defense signed the agreement on behalf of Nigeria.
Nigeria pledged to support the EU was sea lift. That is moving soldiers, equipments, and others by sea when needed. This is in support of the African Standby Force operationalization. And this is indeed a very big step. And it really shows the strength of Nigeria and our capability to support Africa.
Meanwhile, a delegation of Nigerians living in Ethiopia met with the Minister of Information and the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission on the sideline of the summit. The president of the delegation highlights some of their challenges and contributions.
One of our work plans this year is to organize enhancing economic development using the inter-African trade. We are going to organize a workshop. This to actually to give awareness to our both people in the community here in Addis Ababa and recent people in Nigeria to harness the opportunity of the inter-African trade.
The Minister of Information commends them for their efforts and emphasized the role of Nigerians in diaspora as ambassadors of Nigeria, a position supported by the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission.
The diaspora community, the remittances and the exchanges that are happening between Nigerians and those in diaspora now is helping to actually improve the capital inflow and in the process also improving on our FDIs, the foreign direct investment to the country. And this is why the last point that was mentioned is key, the issue of orientation, the issue of advocacy, the issue of enlightenment. You are the biggest ambassadors, like the chairman has said. You are the biggest ambassadors of Nigerians wherever you find yourself, especially here in this very great hub of Ethiopia.
As we engage with you, it's about what you want to do in Nigeria and how you can be part of the progress and development of your country, Nigeria.
The minister assured them that the federal government is working to drive economic reforms, infrastructural development, and other developments that can transform the country. From Addis Ababa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, African leaders are being challenged to look at access to aid as a thing of the past. Speaking at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, emphasized the need for leaders to focus on attracting investments and mobilizing local resources. She said this is necessary in view of the very difficult geopolitical landscape.
Access to aid, I think we can begin to think of it as a thing of the past. We really have to focus on two things: attracting investment and mobilizing our own domestic resources. And I think that is a theme that is running through almost all the meetings here at the AU. I think African leaders are recognizing that this is a challenge, but we can also see it as an opportunity. And again, I'm glad to say that it's emerging that, look, this could be looked at as an opportunity. This morning, we had a session with the Multilateral Development Bank Association of Africa itself, along with President Mahama. One of the things we talked about is how do we better mobilize our own resources on the continent to invest in ourselves. I pointed out that we have about $250 billion worth of pension funds resources on the continent, which we need to find a way to tap. First, the pension funds need to look at their regulations to see how they change it so that they can invest more on the continent rather than investing more outside. And pension funds from South Africa is the biggest, but you have South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Morocco, Botswana, Namibia, so many countries. When you start totaling the resources, it's huge, hugely significant. 250 billion is the estimate that I have. We have these multilateral development banks. We need to capitalize them better. Capitalize them properly so that their balance sheet can expand. They have a combined balance sheet now of about 70 billion.
We take a break now on Network Africa. Still to come. Ghana's first female world boxing champion reflects on historic triumph at the Women's International Boxing Federation. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Nigeria is asking the United States of America to follow laid-down convention on deportation of persons in repatriating immigrants in their country. This comes as many Nigerians expressed their concerns over the likely suspension of the drop-box visa system of the U.S. government. Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Odumegwu-Ojukwu, made this known when the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills, paid her a courtesy visit at the Tafawa Balewa House, Abuja. She bemoaned the emotional and financial pains that many Nigerians in the U.S. are experiencing since the new administration of the country indicated its resolve to repatriate some categories of people from the U.S. In a statement released, she says the effect is far-reaching even to the hinterlands of Nigeria, where, for instance, several families, including children, rely on remittances from the U.S. for their survival and education. Highlighting that Nigerians in the U.S. deserve dignified repatriations, the minister is urging the U.S. government to find a way of ameliorating the trauma of those to be deported, including allowing them ample opportunity to retrieve their assets in America. In the meantime, Nigeria has been reacting to allegations of international agencies funding the Boko Haram terrorist group. The Chief of Defense Standards and Evaluation Defense Headquarters, Major General Adekunle Aribi, has confirmed that there are indeed international fundings and external collaborators for the Boko Haram terrorist group, one of which is known is their connection with ISIS. However, the Major General says that fighting threats of the nation cannot be a military operation alone. It involves the society and other government agencies. He was speaking as a guest on our morning program, The Morning Brief.
It's obvious that the operations of Boko Haram Islamic State in the West African province has metamorphosized since their allegiance with the ISIS, and they have had access to international funding which is beyond the shores of Nigeria. It's obvious in the caliber of weapons you see them display. It's obvious in the sort of sustainability plans that they have. And right now, they are moving into drones, and not only surveillance drones, but also drones that can deliver leather weaponry. So it's obvious, and just as the CDS has said, there's no doubt and no ambiguity about that fact, that there are external collaborators and sponsors. And in 2024, you saw Nigerian governments identified and sanctioned 19 Nigerians regarding to terrorism funding. So there's no doubt about it that this is the lifeline of which is sustaining these operations beyond the local collections that they make on taxing and all of that. Fighting this existential threat to our nation, it's not a military alone function. It is something that needs to go beyond only kinetic operations. The military alone cannot go it alone. It is a whole of society approach that would resolve the issue, because there are so many lines of operation that are not military, that are not driven by military, that needs to be by federal government agencies, by ministries, departments and agencies that need to champion this cause. Right. It need not be the military that needs to be at the part of it. The military should be focusing on the kinetic part of the operation.
Reactions continue to trail the denial of visas to Nigerian senior military officers, including the head of the military, by Canadian High Commission in Nigeria to attend an event in Vancouver. While the Nigerian government has condemned Canada for denying visas to its officials, Interior Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo condemned the action by Canadian officials, terming it disrespectful to the West African country. Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa and half of his delegation, who were supposed to be in Canada for an official assignment, were left in Nigeria after not getting the correct paperwork. Speaking on our Foreign Affairs program, Diplomatic Channel, International Affairs analyst Dr. Francis Okpaleke says Canada has the right or discretion to approve and issue visas to anyone.
As a matter of fact, Canada does have the right or have the discretion to determine who gets a visa approval or denial. But for the sake of General Christopher Musa, I think the level at which that denial did come in terms of the publicity was something that really kind of stoked the attention of many Nigerians. And that's simply because many Nigerians, of course, are in this rush right now. And the question that will be lingering on their mind right in this instance is if someone as high as General Christopher Musa and, of course, a number of security personnel can get their visa refused, what will be the fate of many other Nigerians there as well? But I think beyond that, I think the bigger question here is the bigger question relating to the publicity of this visa refusals. And I think for Nigeria, the bigger piece will be the bilateral tension it can stoke between Nigeria and Canada at the moment. Of course, getting that response from the Nigerian security advisor, Nudu Rabadu, also kind of saying this is not a very palatable situation right now for Nigeria and Canada at this instance. So yes, it doesn't come well. It's not something that really kind of is the news you want to hear right now in terms of visa denial. And many, of course, will have many questions that will be seeking many answers in their mind at this instance.
You can watch more of Dr. Okpaleke's views on Diplomatic Channel today at 8:30 p.m. Sky 515 or 11:30 p.m. on Channels Television or online. We're in Mali now, where dozens of people have been killed, mostly women, after an illegal gold mine collapsed in the country. Officials say over 40 people have died following the collapse that took place near Kenyeba in Mali's western gold-rich Kayes region. According to a gold miners union, the victims had climbed into an open pit area left by industrial miners to look for scraps of gold when the earth around them caved in. Now, this is Mali's second deadly mining accident in 3 weeks after at least 10 people were killed when a mining tunnel flooded late in January. In Egypt, 10 people have been killed when a building collapsed in the capital, injuring 8 more others. Several others are believed to be missing under the rubble as ambulances and rescue officials search for more victims at the scene in the working-class neighborhood of Keddasa. Although a police investigation is underway, eyewitnesses told local media that a gas cylinder explosion caused the collapse. Building regulations are unevenly enforced in the sprawling metropolis of Cairo that's home to over 26 million people. The city has seen several deadly building collapses in recent years, both due to the dilapidated state of some and at times failure to comply with building regulations of the country. In Uganda now, the detained opposition figure Kizza Besigye, who has been on hunger strike for a week, is back to prison after being in a health clinic overnight. His lawyer, Arias Lukwago, announced on social media that the 68-year-old was rushed to a private medical facility in a prison ambulance because his health is deteriorating. Mr. Besigye was charged in the military court with illegal possession of a firearm, threatening national security, as well as treachery, which carries the death sentence. However, he continues to deny these accusations. The news about his health came hours after a cabinet minister said he had visited Besigye in jail and urged him to resume eating while pledging to drop his military trial. This veteran politician, who has run for president against long-serving leader Yoweri Museveni 4 times, has been in detention since he was dramatically abducted in Kenya in November and taken back to Uganda to face a military trial. And we end the program in Ghana to meet Abigail Kwate, who has made history by becoming Ghana's first female world boxing champion. In November 2024, she defeated British boxer Sangeeta Birdie via unanimous decision to win the Women's International Boxing Federation title and become the country's 11th world title holder, but the first female. She says her victory is a significant milestone for Ghanaian sports.
When I was a child, I'm a footballer, and my brother introduced me into the boxing. Starting the boxing, people around me have not accepted it because there are many people can't see the female boxing before, so they don't allow me. But to me, I'll choose to do boxing. I look at my gym mates. First, like Alfred Lampe, Joseph Kome, the 2020 Commonwealth Games, and Michael Abba from here. The first time I was very happy because I'm the first Ghanaian female boxer to take the world title from Ghana, and it cannot happen before. But me, it's the first, so I was happy to myself. I was here, I'm training, I'll prepare for the international fight because here, Ghana here, female are not much. So I'm prepared for outside to go and fight for outside. Then my coach called me and told me that the girl I'll challenge is accepted to fight me world title. First time when I hear the world title, I was very happy because it can never happen from Ghana before. So when I hear the world title, I was very, very happy. And I was prepared for the title before I fight.
That's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.